The apparitions of Our Lady of Akita, approved by the Church, provide a profound message regarding Our Lady's role as Coredemptrix, and also a profound message to humanity about Our Lady's desire for humanity to respond in love. Welcome to MaryCast. This is Dr. Mark Miravalle, Professor of Theology and Mariology at the Franciscan University of Steubenville. And in our little mini-series on Akita, I want to continue to go through the statements of Bishop Ito, the bishop that approved Akita, and also what Bishop Ito reported to Cardinal Ratzinger in his 1982 meeting with Cardinal Ratzinger, that gave both of them the peace to go forward and make a declaration of supernatural authenticity regarding these apparitions. In the report of Bishop Ito to Cardinal Ratzinger, Bishop Ito talks about, first of all, he witnessed these tears, these lacrimations coming from the statue of Our Lady of All Nations, which had been carved by a Buddhist sculptor at the request of a religious sister who believes that she had received a miraculous cure through the intercession of the Lady of All Nations. Bishop Ito goes on in his presentation to Cardinal Ratzinger with these statements, and I want to quote from the documentation. He says, quote, "The statue shed tears 101 times from 1975 until 1981, and more than 400 persons witnessed these weepings. If these weepings had been performed by someone as trickery, it would have been discovered and uncovered as such during this long period. The Faculty of Medicine at the University of Gifu officially analyzed and examined the tears which were collected with absorbent cotton. The university identified the tears as human fluid and proved that the blood type of the tears is type O. Therefore, it is an impossibility to arrange for the statue to shed tears of a human being in such a large quantity." So, as the bishop meets with Cardinal Ratzinger and presents his information, the bishop reports that he received from Cardinal Ratzinger the approval to go forward with a pastoral letter approving the supernatural character of Akita. Now, one other interesting and relevant issue to the theme of Mary Coredemptrix takes place in that Sister Agnes herself had experienced a stigmata, a wound in her hand, which began on June 23rd, 1973. And this wound takes place in the form of a cross and causes her tremendous pain. I want to read to you from an account by the author, in fact the most definitive author on Akita, Francis Fukushima, who was both the secretary to Father Yashuta, the spiritual director of Sister Agnes, but also Mr. Fukushima accompanied Bishop Ito and was present during Bishop Ito's meeting with Cardinal Ratzinger. And this is what he says about this wound. "In the evening of June 28, 1973, a cross-shaped wound about 3 centimeters by 2 centimeters developed on the palm of Sister Agnes's left hand, causing very sharp pain. From then on, the wound renewed itself every week for a month. On every Thursday, the wound used to appear and assumed the appearance of pink blisters and started bleeding. On every Friday, the wound bled profusely, giving intense pain to Sister Agnes. The bleeding lasted until 3 or 3:30 p.m. of each Friday. On each Sunday, the wound returned to its original appearance of pink blisters. The wound disappeared by Sunday of each week. Therefore, the wound was non-existent on Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays of each week. It was of a color bordering on rose. Sister Agnes said in an interview with this author, quote, "Blood oozed from the central point at which 2 straight lines of the cross intersected. I thought the wound formed because of my sins." Sister Agnes also said, quote, "Sister Kotaki and Sister Ikita used to treat my wound with gauze and then witness blood welling up and flowing out from the wound. Because the blood never clotted, the 2 superiors used to say they perceived the wound as mysterious. and said the wound which sends forth the blood of beautiful red color may be carrying a serious meaning, according to this testimony. So, before the lacrimations, Sister Agnes has this cross stigmata in her left hand. Soon afterwards, the sisters begin to witness a cross, a visible cross stigmata on the right hand of the statue of Our Lady, which once again is in the image of Our Lady of all Nations from the Amsterdam apparitions. So first, Sister Agnes has this wound and is offering this wound. Then Our Lady in the statue, on the image of the statue, has this wound. Once again, this is all in preparation for these lacrimations. As we're going to see, Our Lady's wound in the statue continues even longer. Now, the messages. And it's important, you see, we're getting a lot of information on context because these messages of Akita, as Bishop Ito will write to the Bishop of Amsterdam, at that time Bishop Bomers, Bishop Ito will say the apparitions of Akita are a continuation of the apparitions of Amsterdam. Why is that so important? Because Akita has been approved at every conceivable level in the Church by the local bishop in consultation with Cardinal Ratzinger. So if Bishop Ito is identifying these as a continuation of Amsterdam, then you're talking about a confirmation of the statement of Bishop Maria Punt, Joseph Maria Punt, in Amsterdam in May of 2002, that indeed Amsterdam is an authentic apparition. That's important because the whole background, the whole backbone, we could even say, of Amsterdam is calling for this proclamation of a fifth Marian Dogma. So, and let's for a moment be the devil's advocate. Let's say Akita is approved, but it doesn't really have a bearing on Amsterdam. The image of Akita is the image of Amsterdam. Would it be conceivable that Our Lady would appear and God would allow the effecting of lacrimations of the statue in Akita, which is a statue after the image of Amsterdam, if Amsterdam itself was not authentic? It would be preposterous. It would be so misleading. So the fact that it's an image of Our Lady of all Nations in Amsterdam that is then carved, and then it's the statue that Our Lady chooses to both have the appearances surrounding, to have the stigmata appear on that statue of Our Lady of all Nations in Akita, and then, of course, to have these messages which are a co-redemptive indication, as we're going to see, let alone to have the bishop of Akita write the bishop of Amsterdam saying, indeed, these apparitions continue the apparitions of Amsterdam. So what I'm saying is Amsterdam and Akita stand or fall together. It would be inconceivable that heaven would confirm the authenticity of Amsterdam in Akita if indeed Amsterdam was not authentic. Heaven would never use an image from an apparition that wasn't authentic to start yet another apparition, a continuity of the message, as Bishop Ito himself says. So in our next segment, I want to read the messages of Our Lady of Akita. They're strong messages. They're messages that call for a response, a greater dedication, praying the rosary. There's even reference of a very significant upcoming conditional chastisement. This perhaps, as Bishop Ito makes reference, and even more so by Father Yashuda, the spiritual director, this is why Our Lady's weeping. She's weeping for you and me. She's weeping for humanity. She's the Coredemptrix who wants to save souls, but calls us to cooperate in that process. I'm going to give you the messages of Our Lady of Akita in our next series. This is Mark Miravalle with MaryCast. Stay with us, and may God bless you through the power and the truth of these messages. Take care.